Harding. Here. Hug. Here. Johnson is absent. Mr. President.
And I'll provide opening remarks. I just wanted to start the meeting by talking about one topic that we addressed last week and also again this morning in our Public Safety Committee meetings, which is the really concerning trend of traffic and pedestrian fatalities in our city this year. We have 56 traffic and pedestrian fatalities in Omaha in 2024, the most we've had in any recent year. And 14 of those fatalities have been pedestrian. So we attended a press event last week with the National Safety Council. They are working hard on this issue. The city is working hard on this issue. We're working to implement Vision Zero. We're working with our police department on enforcement efforts throughout the city. We've appropriated more money for traffic enforcement signs, but we need the help of the general public. So my message today is please slow down, stop the speeding, stop the distracted driving, and give pedestrians some grace. 56 fatalities in our city is way too many in any given year, and that's certainly the case this year in 2024. Thank you.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of legislative chambers.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Omaha City Council. We appreciate having you here today. We look forward to hearing your testimony on our many items. If you have difficulty hearing the proceedings today, you may contact our Building Commission representative here for a listening device, or you may also access the meeting on a screen in the back that has closed captioning. I also encourage you to turn your cell phones off or at least to vibrate.
Item 6, Mayor's veto on ordinance number 44036 as amended, an ordinance to amend section 44-151 of the Omaha Municipal Code to adopt the 2023 National Electrical Code.
Thank you. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. President. Question for Mr. Kuzy.
Matt Kuzy, Law Department.
Paying attention. Good afternoon, Matt. There was a question, I sent you an email regarding, there was an article in Nebraska Examiner about any conflict of interest due to me being a member of the International Brotherhood Electrical Workers Local 1483. Was there any conflict of interest you saw in me voting on these items from last week and today?
No, it's the Law Department's opinion that you sent that request, and I provided you a letter which explains it under my review of Nebraska law and any pertinent cases that your membership in that organization does not create a conflict that would prevent you from voting on this or the previous vote that you had on this 2 weeks ago.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzy. And I know in speaking to my colleague, Councilmember Rowe, my friend, he's been supportive of MOBA over the years with his profession, and I got great respect for Mr. Rowe. But I'm thank you for clearing that up, Mr. Kuzy, because when I saw that, I didn't know if it was something that was an anti-union message you were trying to send or what it was, but I'm glad that's on the record. I would like to make a motion to override the veto.
There's a motion and a second to override. I'll support the override today too. Obviously, I supported the amendment and support adopting the full 2023 code that has been adopted nationally. But reading the numbers here today, it's unlikely this override will pass. We're down 2 members, and the original amendment passed 4-3. So should this override fail, we all know we need to update the code and work together on that in the next 60 days. And I intend to do that with my colleagues. And I would look forward to working with everyone involved in this conversation on the issue of affordable housing. We have a lot more work to be done there. Regardless of this particular issue, I know Mr. Rowe agrees, and so I look forward to moving that issue forward very aggressively. Mr. Rowe, you're recognized.
Now that you mentioned that, I think I wanted to just weigh in on that as well. I will tell you, it did at least bring a discussion point to the table that I think we needed to have. And I know that we're working hard to move forward with affordable housing ideas, and we have a lot of people in the community that are concerned about it. I still believe these carve-outs were appropriate, but I appreciate the conversation that I've been able to have the last couple of weeks.
Thank you. There's no further lights. There was a motion and a second to override the veto. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion failed, 3-2. Veto is sustained. Item 7, to consider a Class C liquor license for Hammer and Nails located at 14450 Eagle Run Drive, Suite 250.
The public hearing and vote on number 7 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon. This is my first time attending a council meeting, so it's an honor to be here, and I appreciate the time and consideration. I would look to you for guidance as to what you're looking for from me as to what we're petitioning for, but happy to share any details as requested.
Thank you. And just your name and address for the record?
My name is Jeff Gill, and my home address is 18101 Gretchen Avenue in Elkhorn. The business address is 14450 Eagle Run Drive, Suite 250 in
Thank you.
Omaha.
And are you the owner and operator?
Yes.
Great. We'll just see if there's any questions from council members. Thank you. Are there any other proponents that want to speak? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. There's a motion to approve and a second. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed, 5-0.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Item 8, to consider a Class C liquor license for Good Lookin' located at 16920 Wright Plaza, Suite 118.
Public hearing and vote on number 8 is today. We have the applicant by Zoom. We'll get you off mute here in a minute. All right, try that.
All right, hello.
Hi. Your name and address for the record?
Yeah, Christian Brabeck, and I'm the owner-operator of Good Lookin', and our address is 16920 Wright Plaza in Omaha.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Yes, sir. Councilman, I see the ladies are absent today from the city council. There's 2 ladies missing. Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, and North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation. We see that there's a lot of liquor license being passed in West Omaha. Will the city council start to look at the process of giving African American license to grow medical marijuana?
Are there any other opponents to number 8? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. Mr. Rowe, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Christian, thanks for joining us on Zoom. This is in District 5, and new business for us out west in the old Austin Steakhouse location. Could you give us kind of like a 60-second commercial on what this business is going to be like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started Good Lookin'. My first location was in the Dundee neighborhood almost 4 years ago now. So it was at the end of COVID, kind of before there was a vaccine or anything. I thought it might be a good opportunity to get into a really great space, and because restaurants were closing, and so there were a lot on the market. So I got lucky and got into a really amazing historic building in Dundee. It's 110 years old, and we've been doing breakfast and brunch ever since then. We do kind of a mix of what I consider elevated Midwestern food with some creative, kind of healthier options that people enjoy. And we serve mimosas and Bloody Marys, and it's a more limited liquor menu, but kind of just your brunch basics. And so really excited to be out west right now at 168th and Center, and kind of get introduced to a new part of Omaha, and hopefully there's kind of more opportunity and more growth in the future to keep serving Omaha.
Great, that's great news. So it's going to be a breakfast and lunch, so you won't be open during the dinner hour, the later hours?
Correct. Yep, we're open from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. right now.
Okay.
Sometimes we do private events at night, but other than that, we'll stick with the breakfast and lunch hours.
Perfect. I'll move for approval.
There's a motion and a second, and I can vouch for the operation in Dundee. It's very well done. All right, no further lights. Roll call.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley. Harding.
Yes.
Hug. Mr. President.
Yes,
Motion passed 5-0.
thank you.
Item 9, to consider a Class K liquor license for a local beer patio and kitchen located at 4909 South 135th Street, Suite 113.
Public hearing and vote on number 9 is today. We have the applicant by Zoom as well. Ms. Weiss will get you off mute here in a minute. Okay,
Hello.
hi.
Yeah, we're applying for a catering license to add to our current liquor license. Address of local is in our Millard location, 4909 South 135th Street.
And your name and address, just for the record?
Sarah Weiss, 2522 North 110th Court, apartment 204, and then 68164.
Great, thank you. Are there any other proponents that want to speak to number 9? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Move to approve.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes,
Motion passed 5-0.
thank you. Good luck.
Item 10, a resolution to approve the preliminary plat for the Rose at Barcalos with a waiver to Section 5384A lot depth located at 4209 and 4215 Ellison Avenue. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. B is communication and opposition.
Public hearing and vote on number 10 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Item 11, a resolution to approve the preliminary plat for Mason Place Rose with a waiver to Section 5384A lot depth located southwest of 33rd and Mason Streets. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. B is communication and opposition.
Public hearing and vote on number 11 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Item 12, a resolution to approve the 1501 Howard and Standard Rehab Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan located at 1501 Howard Street and at 500 South 18th Street in amount up to $1,316,643.
Public hearing and vote on number 12 is today. Proponents, please.
Oh, yeah, good afternoon, Don Seaton, City Planning. This project located downtown, 2 sites, both are near the Flatiron Building. Both of the sites contain existing historic buildings. These buildings will be comprehensively rehabbed and reused for affordable housing. 1501 Howard, they'll have 16 apartment units and about 6,700 square feet of first floor commercial. Give me a second. I get short of breath sometimes. Give me a moment.
Yep, you're fine.
Okay. And the standard building, they'll have 40 units and about 3,700 square feet of commercial. Both are in an extremely blighted area, so it'll be a 20-year TIF term, and both will make contributions to the streetcar system. The developer is Howard Street Rehab Owner, LLC. Neeraj Agarwal is the manager. It's an investment of $24.7 million downtown. The TIF request is for $1,316,643. Complies with the master plan. It's a good use of these historic buildings. We ask for your approval.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Hello, Neeraj Agarwal at 1901 Howard Street, Suite 300, Omaha, Nebraska 68102. for the project, the applicant developer. As Don mentioned, this is another affordable housing project we're looking to do. So we were here a few months ago with our 1904 Farnham project. That was a renovation like this that used historic tax credits and low-income housing tax credits. So this is very similar effectively. The only nuance is slightly different location, and we have 2 buildings instead of 1. Similar to previously, we're looking to financially close in late January of this coming year and finish construction by next year. But like Don mentioned, this will be adding roughly 56 units of affordable housing downtown, along with some first floor commercial space as well. The goal is to bring in a restaurant to the Standard Oil space to replace the Flatiron Cafe's vacancy a couple years ago, and then a couple other restaurants at 1501 Howard, with the remaining retail bay at Standard Oil, likely being a small retail space. With that, I'll just answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. When I finally got around to reading this thing, what is defined, rather surprising. I'm against it again, and for the basic same reasons. The TIF financing is being challenged by State Attorney General, I believe, or the finance manager, as being misused in some cases. And in the way this is worded, it leaves out a primary word called ad valorem property tax. Property is missing from that word. Once again, it's deceiving to the people. Now, if you look at the 2 pictures in the area around there, who there is going to pay the property taxes that are not paid during the 20-year period of this TIF financing? Somebody has to pay it. And then the city's own thing in regards to development around the streetcar, it's people that live in the area of that district, which means it's not the guy that's doing the developing or the guy that owns the building. It's the property owners that are there. Now, if that's all that it is, then how are you going to get more money to pay all those taxes that the school system loses? Are you going to build a lot more businesses around, tear down on what's there and build a lot more businesses? Where's your guarantee of that? Why are you so certain that you're going to fill that area with new businesses? You need to answer those questions. And how long will it be before it gets started? Because a lot of TIF projects in this city have stopped. We'd like to know why they've stopped. Because when you stop a construction problem, what happens? It costs you more, which means me. Thank you.
Any other opponents to number 12?
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I'd like to support the previous commenters' comments, but actually it is the state auditor that questioned the TIF financing scheme usage. It wasn't, he didn't say it was an auditor. So I just want to clear that up. Thank you.
Okay. Any other opponents today?
Yes, sir. Gentlemen, ladies absent today at the City Council, and I had talked to Ms. Johnson about this before. Donnie R. Johnson, 4928 North 52nd Street, the Johnson and Christian Foundation, and North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation. I was 25 years old when I came to the City Council, and they said the Flatiron should be on a historic landmark. But when they had me study in New York at the United Nations, I had to study the Empire State Building and all the architecture around there. I'm asking myself, why is it on a historical landmark? Let's remove that, take that money, give it to the North Omaha folks so we can buy Fountaindale or that land over by the airport so we can grow some medical marijuana and make some money.
Any other opponents to number 12? Seeing none, public hearings closed. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. Underwold. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The 1501 Howard Street, how long has that building been empty?
Oh,
It's been a
that's a
while.
good question. I think probably over 10 years. We
Yeah.
acquired a couple years ago. from a citizen in New York who's looking to develop it, and it was probably vacant for a couple years before that, so I'd imagine at least 10 years.
Yeah, I know working at OPPD downtown, it seems like it's been forever, but I'm glad
Yeah.
this is on the agenda today. And they're affordable units. There's 16 in the 1501,
Correct, yeah.
correct?
Yes.
And parking, I think, is the same?
So parking actually on that building, we're fortunate, the basement's usable for parking, so we'll have 16 stalls in the basement, so we'll have one-to-one parking there.
Okay, and what's the projected time frame before it's complete and people can move in?
Yeah, it's approximately 10 months. I mean, fortunately, the top floors on both of the buildings are already vacant and no need for demo or abatement, so we can move pretty quickly. So the goal is financially close by the end of this coming January and then finish construction in December of next year, so less than a year.
Okay, and the 500 South 18th Street, there's 40 units there. What's the time frame on that building?
Concurrently, they would be going, they're part of one collective project, so they'd be going at the same time.
Okay, thanks for coming down. I'm making a motion to support this today. Thanks, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Also have a couple comments before I call for the vote, as I don't see any other lights on. I want to thank Mr. Agarwal for this project too. I think it is very worthwhile. And it's an example of the conversation we were just having about affordable housing. This is a complicated project. I think you have more than 6 different sources of funding just to help make this work and pencil out to provide affordable housing for the community. And in these instances, I think we're between $700 and $900 per month in rent. And these projects are hard to come by at the city council level. We've seen a few recently, but not a lot. And although this is a great project, great projects, we're talking about 56 units here when we know we're about 30,000 short in the city right now. So to put that in context, we have a lot more work to do, and I appreciate your efforts to get this project off the ground. Mr. Hug.
Can the developer please come back up? Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon.
I'll give you a little historical information on 1501 Howard Street. Back during World War II, they were making tents for the Army there.
Mm-hmm.
It was a canvas company, but it's not why I called you back up. I'm just curious because I hear a lot of concerns in the public about the shortage of workers. On your previous projects, and more certainly these 2 proposed ones, do you anticipate any struggles hiring workers or getting workers?
For construction specifically, you mean? Or?
Yes.
No, overall, I mean, luckily we have been fortunate to have a lot of great general contractors. So we work with larger companies like Leader, DOTComm, who are typically doing $100 to $200 million of development. So while wages have gone up higher quite a bit in the last couple of years, especially with skilled trades, and it's more competitive, we're fortunate to find the right people for the right projects, given those connections.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. There was a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley. Harding. Hug.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Consent agenda. Any member of the city council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the city council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed unless otherwise provided by the city council rules of order.
The public hearings on agenda items 13 through 18 were held on November 5th. I don't see any further lights. Is there a motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley. Harding. Hug.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Council members, 2 items. We'll need to withdraw item number 35, consistent with our questioning this morning. It has the wrong backing on a appropriation that's otherwise designated to keep Omaha beautiful. So we'll need to get that rewritten, and I'll seek that vote here in a minute when we get to number 35. And then, as you know, I requested that number 38 be removed from consent agenda, and we do that separately, as I know the director of the Sports Commission is here to tell us more about the PACE program. So that's a long way of saying the public hearings on agenda items 19 through 34, 36, 37, and 39 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, and who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. These are items 19 through 34, 36, 37, and 39.
Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. I'm against number 37. I think there are plenty of other programs, including through the county, for family education. Actually, we don't know what that means, but Community Alliance gets lots of funding from different sources. And I don't think we need another juvenile and family education program. It costs us somewhere out of our pocket. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other testifiers on these items? Seeing none, public hearings closed.
Second.
So motion and a second. Roll call.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley. Harding. Hug.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Item 35 is a resolution to approve the agreement with Keep Omaha Beautiful in the amount of $23,000 to operate the Trees for Tomorrow program during the 2025 calendar year.
Is there a motion to withdraw? Motion and a second. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Item 38, a resolution to approve an amendment to the PACE agreement for an amended amount of $100,000 to operate the PACE Youth Sports Program during the 2024 calendar year.
The public hearing on number 38 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Lindsay Toussaint, 5105 South 37th Street. This year has been a very challenging year for PACE, but also a very gratifying year with the help from corporate, philanthropic, and of course, the public support. PACE was able to support nearly 2,000 youth in our programming thus far this year, and of that 2,000, over 1,500 were unique athletes, and they participated in baseball, flag football, soccer. What we are working diligently towards is our partnerships with nonprofits in the community, Omaha Police Department, and then our organizational strategy for the next few years. A couple of our goals that we're setting forward that the funds here that are being proposed to be amended will support will be the alignment and increased staffing to better serve our 2025 programming, and then increase our programming to garner more of a year-round factor, more sport opportunities for our youth, and to focus a little bit more on those youth who are 14 to 18 years of age. Additionally, the funds provided by the city and the council today will help set us up for the success of these goals, as we are planning to launch 3 new sports for 2025 and bring back one that had previously existed. Those new sports include basketball, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and chess, and the one that we are bringing back is mountain biking.
Great. Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak today?
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the City Council, Thomas Warren, Mayor's Office. I'm here on behalf of Mayor Stothert. We have been in communication with the Omaha Sports Commission along with Chief Smarterer and Omaha Police Department to support the reestablishment of PACE. We've been working with them for the past year. They have undergone quite a few changes, particularly with the reconstitution of their board of directors. They do have new leadership in operations and management of the organization. They have implemented a number of internal controls to manage their fiscal affairs. That was critically important to make sure that they had the proper oversight. They have renewed the relationship, their relationships with the donor and the philanthropic community. And so we do support the additional $50,000 going to PACE for the programming. As she mentioned, they had a very successful summer program. These funds will also assist with the staffing, equipment, and other additional resources that they need to maintain the program for the remainder of this year, as well as going into 2025. So we look forward to maintaining our ongoing relationship with this organization. I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents?
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I have been following this closely with PACE. It's unfortunate that the city has to take over, but you know the city needs to step up and actually more than what PACE has been doing, and that is to upkeep fields, playing fields, and this money that is being allotted is not going to do it. You need to allocate more funding so that you can upgrade the fields that have been neglected. So the kids are going to do fine, Pete. They really are. The problem is that the money is being mismanaged and is continually being mismanaged up to today. So provide more money so that the fields that the, correct me if I'm wrong, can play at. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents?
Opponent, opposing or for?
Opponents.
Proponent? Okay, well.
In opposition.
Okay, Mr. Frederickson. Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation. I really don't have an objection per se, because my sons, under Mr. Tommy Warren, have benefited from these programs. One of my sons is a varsity basketball coach at Thomas Jefferson. My other son's a varsity football coach at South High. I benefited from the same program from under Mayor Leahy and Parker Recreation. My resolution, or my solution, or suggestion to this program is to make it a part of the Peace Corps, because we had the same thing, but it was through AAU. But I think this is a wonderful program, and I should be thanking Mr. Warren, because my son, he benefited, but he hasn't been able to get back to Creighton and coach over there.
Thank you. Any other opponents?
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Joyce Vondrasik, 619 South 37th Street. I just want to say that I think it's inappropriate for the city to be conducting activities that amount to propaganda for the police department to rehabilitate their reputation, which is very bad among some groups of people in this city. I think that everything that this woman behind me over here just mentioned about all the programs that they just accomplished this last summer and everything they're planning to add sound amazing. Athletics for community engagement sound amazing, but when it's just to rehabilitate the bad reputation of the Omaha Police Department, which has been taken to federal court and lost several times over the past few years for serious breaches of civil rights and various other unnecessary violence, I would just like to condemn this organization and say that we can better invest in the youth of our communities and through athletics programs without doing so as a part of propaganda arms for the Omaha Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents? Seeing none, public hearings closed. Mr. Harding.
Thank you, Mr. President. Over the years, PACE has done a tremendous job of providing, through athletics, abilities or opportunities for our youth to be able to participate in sports and learn about responsibility and sportsmanship and life lessons that are very important. And then, unfortunately, we had some of those who took advantage of PACE and put us, the city, as well as the donors, and eventually the recipients, the beneficiaries, that being the kids, took advantage of those and put us in a situation where we could no longer be good stewards of taxpayer dollars and continue to contribute to PACE, even with the tremendous goals that they've set out to achieve. So there will be some that probably say we should have been doing this sooner, but we are ultimately the stewards of the taxpayer dollars, and as Chief Warren brought up, you know, their trust is a big part of really this back and forth between PACE and the city of Omaha. And we had to reestablish that level of trust in order to know that, that PACE was going to move forward with those same goals and provide those same opportunities to our youth. And so in steps the Omaha Sports Commission and Lindsay, and under their leadership, took that task under their wing to reestablish the trust to get us to a point now. And again, I'm sure some would have liked to have seen this done sooner, the financial contribution that we're, I think, about to approve today. But we had to make sure that there was new management on board. We had to make sure that the board of directors, we had a new board of directors. We had to make sure those fiscal controls were in place so that this couldn't happen again. So we had to reestablish, and we had to earn the trust, or PACE had to earn the city's trust again to be willing to invest in this great organization. So I'm very supportive of what we're going to do here today. I commend the Sports Commission, Lindsay, under her leadership for all the actions that they've taken to reestablish that trust, not only with the city, but with the taxpayers. And then ultimately, the beneficiaries will be our kids and those in those underserved communities who, without this program, wouldn't have those kind of opportunities. So very supportive of it. But again, as much as I would have liked to have been approving this sooner, we had to make sure that those checks and balances were in place, because it's vitally important that this doesn't happen again, but it's vitally important that we invest in our youth. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hug, you're recognized.
Lindsay, how are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
Two things. I want to point out that this is the second half of what the mayor promised. In the spring, the mayor graciously gave PACE $50,000 at a time where I think it was pretty significant timing for them to get that money. And at that time, the mayor said that everything went right. She would award another $50,000. So this is an indication that everything went right. And I think you know as well as I know what a long road you had coming back. And there were no shortages of people at one point that just wanted to pull the plug on PACE and let it go away. So acknowledging all your hard work and everything that you went through, you and your staff, I want to ask you if there's one short story that you could relate to us to kind of indicate the hard road you had the past year and a half that you could relate to us.
It was very hard to see a lot of work that we knew happened in the past with PACE kind of come almost to a screeching halt right before the programming kickstarted back in the fall. And as Jamie has on my team has mentioned, like sometimes the days got really chaotic and made you want to pull your hair out. But the moment you got to stand out on the field and watch those kiddos come play because they got to play sports again, it really changed your mindset, and it was almost a ready reset to get going for what we needed to do. So that is like the biggest piece to me of challenge, to kind of see the other side of it. That's more on the back end that a lot of people don't get the privilege to be a part of. But to see those kids come out and some of the programming that we did do, and we did do a partnership with Radius, kind of a test run for how we kind of want to move and work with some of our nonprofit partners in the area, and to hear the feedback from those who operate Radius and just use the term magical in seeing the change in their kiddos after they come and play flag football with us. It's really great to hear. And then we know that we're kind of on that path forward, and a forward and upward path. There's still a lot to be done, and we encourage everybody to come be a part of it and help us out. There's tons of volunteering opportunities. You don't have to be a police officer or a firefighter to be a volunteer, but every person will make a difference in our kids' lives.
Okay. Thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate that answer, because it is all about the kids. And when you go out there and see what you just described, that's why we're all supportive of this today. And I appreciated you having me out there for the baseball and soccer championships this year. That was my reflection to see those kids back at it in a productive setting, working with their coaches, working with law enforcement, building those relationships. That's what makes this program special. I was hanging out with Chief Cerveny in the back there for a while, watching the kids, and I know we had that same reflection as well, too. So I do appreciate all you've done to get it back on track here. I'm appreciative that we have the full $100,000 now in 2024, and we have that budgeted in 2025 as well. That contract, I presume, will come later, but I look forward to supporting that as well. You mentioned you were back up to about 2,000 participants. I think you raised maybe $700,000 in private funds. What would you anticipate your goals being in 2025?
Yep. So funding wise, we're about at 850 or just north of that. And then goal wise on athletes, a little bit flux with that. We want to get closer to about 3,000. We are going to have the increased sports that I kind of mentioned, but also increasing the sports that we do have, kind of that footprint in within the communities that we do serve. So we look to see that uptick and kind of get ahead of the schedule. That way we can map out the whole 2025 so kids can plan accordingly. But we are doing our research and figuring out, how best to offset the sports with the sports that we're hoping they do in their high schools, and making sure that we give every kid kind of the opportunity that they want to participate in the sports that we offer.
I know you did flag football this fall too, and you mentioned a couple new sports. Those are new to the program, right?
Those are new, yeah. So the chess will be new, the jiu-jitsu will be new, and basketball will be new. Probably launch all three of those about the week of January 6th. We're still finalizing that game plan and the plan for 2025, but some of those are very fortunately, some of those are officer-led. So some officers came to us wanting to help teach and lead those programs, which is great. That's kind of what we're looking to have and what we've been trying to move towards. So we're very excited to see that movement.
Good. Thank you. Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Lindsay, thanks again, and I'm glad to support this today. There was a recent story in the news where in OPS, the number of kids that miss multiple days, and COVID really exacerbated that. So every program we can have and the leadership that you have and the work that's been put in rehabilitating the mission of PACE, it's an important tool for our community in helping kids, especially as I mentioned with the OPS issues, having structure and having adults and mentorship is it's vital in any community, especially in Omaha. So thanks for the work you put in, and I'm glad to support this today. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second? No motion yet. Second. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Items 40 through 46 can be considered together for appointments to the Urban Design Review Board to appoint Kurt Sizer, Todd Swarzek, Michael Reedman, Matthew Schaefer, Philip Webb, Adam Merrick, and Katie Underwood.
Council members will take items 40 through 46 together, and if you're in attendance to speak to any of these items, please come up and identify yourself if you'd like to speak. Because the public hearings and votes on items 40 through 46 are now. Proponents, please. Seeing none. Any opponents?
Yes, sir, Mr. Fredson. I was dealing with the international community and Tajikistan, Tajikistan.
Donnie, it's got to be about Urban Design Review Board. These are appointments, 40 through 46.
Oh, I thought this was about the medical marijuana license you
It's
guys
not.
are. Never mind.
Public hearing's closed. I believe there was a motion and a second for items 40 through 46 to approve. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Item 47, a resolution to approve the appointment of Alexis Bromley to the Omaha Housing Authority.
Public hearing and vote on number 47 is today. Proponents, please. I believe Ms. Bromley's here. You want to come down?
Hi, good afternoon. Alexis Bromley, 909 Capitol Ave. Here to answer any questions that you have, share about myself, anything that you're interested in, please let me know.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Good afternoon, Joni Poor, 1823 Harney Street with Omaha Housing Authority, here to support Ms. Bromley's appointment. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents to number 47? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Mr. Begley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Ms. Bromley, good afternoon. Thank you for coming down today. So a couple questions for you and Joni. LB 840 was passed. What role do you see the board in the implementation of that LB 840 and specifically for the right to counsel?
Yes. I see that, one, as a board member, I haven't had my orientation yet, so as a commissioner, so I will share that. I'm really looking forward to that piece of it. I see my role in this as it's a public resource, housing is, and having a board there, you have to manage the oversight of that, the management and administration of a public resource for our city. I take accountability for that, and I know as a board member, I'm now going to be an individual person that takes accountability for Omaha Housing Authority in that manner. That's not specific to the LB that you're referring to, but I hope that gives you an understanding and idea of the approach that I will take personally to this role.
I appreciate that, and thank you again for putting your name in the arena. It's not an easy thing to do, and this is a role in Omaha where we want to have people stay housed is the role of OHA. So maybe a question for Joni as well. Good afternoon, Joni.
Good afternoon.
What's the timeline of the resident commissioners? Do you know what the timeline is on when they're going to be seated?
I don't have a specific timeline, but so we go through a robust process where we provide the notification that there is an opening, or in this case, 2 openings for resident commissioners to all residents of public housing as well as all voucher holders throughout the Housing Authority. That's over nearly 5,000 voucher holders and over 2,600 public housing residents. Throughout the entire month of September and a little bit of August, we received applications. Those were vetted, scored, interviewed, and recommendations have been provided to the mayor's office. I don't know the exact timeline, but that has already been completed on our side and provided to them. I know that they were working to contact those individuals to have them complete the next steps in the process.
Okay. In respect to the integrated housing support services from the community providers, is that something that OHA is still working on? The nonprofits and the community organizations who work with clients?
Sure.
Is that something that we're still working on and connecting with the community?
Absolutely. I know, for example, North Omaha Community Partnership, who had been coming in and doing open house style events with providers who could come into resident homes and deliver in-home services, as well as bringing in other resident services through our longtime serving resident services coordinator, Sal Asaka. So both our internal team and that external group had been bringing providers in and going around to all of our different tower locations, delivering those kind of open house style events at the tower locations for tenants to come down and learn more about what type of in-home services they could receive, what type of community-based services they could receive. They could take advantage of none of those services, and many of them brought resources with them when they were at the towers. So that has happened at most of the towers and continues.
Okay. And I know on a day we didn't have council, I went to the eviction court and got a firsthand understanding and working with the community partners and OHA and others on the challenge that people deal with on evictions and the right to counsel. So how does that look under LB 840, the right to counsel? Will that be implemented by July, or when does that happen?
It's so the implementation date was moved instead of this July to July of 2025. And Senator Kavanaugh had indicated that he was going to work to secure dollars because currently the burden to pay for the council for tenants is placed on the Housing Authority. The Housing Authority does not have dollars that would be allowable through federal regulations in order to pay for that service. So he had talked about working to secure those dollars. We have reached out to Senator Kavanaugh post the special session, post election to reach out to him to ask if we could meet and have some conversation leading up to the next legislative session so that we can kind of talk through that. He had talked about either trying to secure some dollars or work on some new legislation to revise the current legislation that's requiring that right to counsel. I will state that at this time, thanks to philanthropic dollars in the community, and this has been the case for many years, any tenants that go to eviction court and want counsel have right to counsel. That is currently something that's available to them and paid for. So if they want counsel, it's available.
Okay. Thanks, Joni. One other question for Ms. Bromley. Thank you again for coming down. And OHA, there are members in, I believe, Local 251 that are employees of the Omaha Housing Authority. Have you had any experience with dealing with collective bargaining agreements? And if you haven't, that's okay. But do you have any thoughts on employees that are organized at work and do great work and a tough job with the Omaha Housing Authority?
Yes, I do not have experience to answer your question specifically. And then what was your other question?
Just in general, the Omaha Housing Authority, the number of employees that do the work at OHA.
Mm-hmm. What's the question?
Well, you never had and that's okay. You already answered the question on collective bargaining agreements, but there is represented employees, and there's been challenges in the past that have been dealt with at OHA, and I hope you have an open mind to members that are recognized under the collective bargaining agreements, because without going through what happened before, I'm going to make a motion to support you today, and maybe to reach out to Mr. Burkhalter, who's a local 251 president, because relationships are important, especially in the role of OHA commissioner, just to have a good balance of understanding what the employees do in the collective bargaining agreement that they're under. So
yeah. I can share that my experience comes primarily from community development, community engagement, neighborhood revitalization, as well as economic development. So that's the skill set that I would bring to the commissioner, the commissioning board, in that aspect of it. I've worked with some of you on the council here when you have done community engagement with your respective communities and districts. And so that piece of it that you're speaking to, that would be a learning curve for me. Nothing that I am not afraid of, or I at least have the skill set and the wherewithal to understand and have those conversations. Maybe not this point in time, respectfully, but I think at a later date, absolutely, that would be my duty to have those conversations.
I appreciate your candor, and again, I'm not trying to say gotcha or anything. You got a great resume. That's why I'm supporting you today. I just wanted to bring that up. That I encourage you to reach out just to have a good relationship, to understand what that group represents and the work. It's a tough job. And there's challenges, but I'm confident in your abilities as a commissioner. I'll make the motion to support you and wish you the best of luck, and you can reach me anytime if you got any questions.
Second.
Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second to approve. Also to say that I've had the opportunity to work with Alexis in several different opportunities, and most recently as her interim position at the Benson Theater, and we had a chance to talk about this appointment. I support your appointment here as well. I wonder if you want to take a minute just to talk about your personal experience with OHA too. I think that's a unique qualifier for you on this board and commission. And then also, I know we talked about the various challenges at OHA we're all confronting and all trying to work on together. I know you're very much aware of that too, so I want to give you an opportunity to talk about that.
I am third generation born Nebraskan, Omaha to be specific, and so my family roots and history are here. And because my family roots and history are here, I am not a direct recipient of public housing, but my immediate family is. I'm the first generation in my family to not be raised into public housing. My grandmother was the president of the Tenant Association when she was at Hilltop Housing at the time, and so that community engagement is very much deep within my roots. I am fortunate though, as I mentioned, I didn't grow up in public housing. So my privilege and my life experience is much different than the rest of my family. I have 2 college degrees, and my most recent degree is in urban studies. And during my time with urban studies, I studied the city of Omaha for housing affordability, as well as the effects of redlining on the north side and why 3 out of 4 communities across the country are still disadvantaged that were disinvested in through redlining practices for almost 70 years. And because of that, I have a tie to Omaha. That's why I got into community development. I care about the community, I care about the city, and why people like me don't want to live in Omaha. when they reach a certain age or they reach a certain level of their professional careers and they have the option to go somewhere else, they choose to. And so not only am I here for people with that background, but I'm also here for my family. I don't think anyone in my family would have saw someone like me in this position prior to today. And speaking with my grandmother about it, speaking with my mother about it, and my other family members, I carry their proudness with me today. I carry their pride, but also I carry just compassion and empathy for people who need the right to housing. So.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for that. Well said. And then my last question either for Joni or Matt, to the I think question Mr. Begley was posing. I believe there's a requirement on legislation that the remaining 2 resident commissioners be appointed by the end of the year. Is that correct?
So the Nebraska Housing Agency Act requires that positions that are vacated, commissioner positions, are filled within 6 months. And so the position would have technically become open when the legislation took effect in July.
Okay. So that deadline would be when now?
I don't know the exact date off the top of my head, but likely probably sometime in December then.
Okay. So essentially by the end of the year, we'll
Yes.
see those 2 more appointments coming to the city council.
I would imagine, yes.
Okay.
I just don't know the exact date. I just didn't want to give you a specific date. We've done our side of the work and we've submitted those over to Carrie. I know that she's doing her due diligence with, there has to be applications and, the other pieces that come in your packet that go through and working through. The residents also have, at least one of them, I believe, is also employed full-time, and so working around schedules and those sorts of things. So sometimes it takes, another couple weeks just to get that information all put together and then get it on the agenda. But I anticipate it any time now.
Okay.
And just for the record, 6 months from July is in January.
Okay. I'm sure it's the intention to have those positions filled
Thank
as
you,
soon as
Mr.
possible,
Kuzy.
though, so that we have a full board, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you. There are no further lights. There's a motion to approve in a second. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Item 48, an ordinance to acquire private property for the 29th Street improvements, Hamilton Street to Seward Street.
Public hearing on number 48 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 49, an ordinance to acquire private property for the Elmwood Road and Underwood Avenue roundabout project.
Public hearing on number 49 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Non-action items, items 50 through 80, do not require public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and/or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on an agenda for consideration.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion and a second to adjourn. Roll call.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding. Hug. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-0. Meeting is adjourned at 2:57.